Hello, everybody. Jay Baker here in Seattle. So during my last talk this Sunday, which is up on YouTube right now, it was just kind of a update more than anything. Wasn't able to do a talk this week, so I just kind of got up there and did an update. But someone asked if I would recommend some books. So what I'm going to try to do this week, my goal is at least, is to recommend 5 books that have affected my life every day this week. So maybe we'll try 5 and 5 and see what happens. So I'm going to start with a few different books, but I think it's probably proper that we start with this book, The Ragamuffin Gospel. Look at that. Brendan Manning right there. This book made me realize that I wasn't alone in my thoughts and ideas about grace. And subtitle is what? Embracing the Unconditional Love of God. It just kind of was like what I needed to continue my work and realize that I wasn't crazy. And I'm sure most of you have read this book, but he's got better books, but this book was the one that really started it all for me, was The Ragamuffin Gospel. Now something a little bit newer. This book right here, Faith, Hope, and Carnage by Nick Cave and Sean O'Hagan. When I was in London seeing the first Tammy Faye on Broadway production, I got a call from Barry, and Barry said, "Hey Jay, I've got tickets to go see Nick Cave and Sean O'Hagan in conversation about this book." I said, "Sure, yeah, I'd love to go. How cool would that be?" And it was such an amazing night, and it was really touching, and I felt lucky that I was there for that. So I went out and bought this book automatically, really quick. And I liked it so much I listened to it and bought it on tape as well, because it's a really great book. If you're going through loss and mourning, this book is a real great helpful tool. It's also, I like Nick Cave's idea of faith. It's something that I relate to quite a bit, and gives me hope of really faith outside of church in a way. So this is another great book I'd recommend. One of my mentors and good friends I've known for years is Carlton Pearson, and this is The Gospel of Inclusion. He was probably one of the biggest evangelical preachers in the world, especially black preachers in the world, but he was a big deal. And one day he just decided that he felt that God led him to believe there was no more hell, and ended up coming out and saying everybody's saved, and lost a lot of his followers and things like that, gave up a lot to follow his conviction. I remember one time me and him ended up speaking together in Las Vegas, but it was Las Vegas, New Mexico, in this small church, and we were both kind of going through our being rejected by the evangelical church for our inclusive messages. And we had a really great conversation in the car. I've talked a lot about it, but anyway, this is quite an amazing book, quite an amazing man. We lost him last year, and I got to speak at one of his memorial services, and so grateful for Carlton. So please, this is another book. Talk a lot about Paul Tillich here at Revolution, and I do use a lot of his sermon books because they're easy to understand. But if you'd like a Paul Tillich book that's not a sermon book, but kind of one of his theology books that's a little bit easier to understand and really helped me understand what he meant by the ground of being, as far as when that's what he calls God as the ground of being, is this book right here, My Search for Absolutes. You'll probably hear me refer to this one a lot. This book, as Pete Rollins says, can really preach. Believe it or not, even Pete Rollins says this book can preach. So another book I really highly recommend. Some of these may be out of print, but I usually go on eBay and get books. You can get them pretty cheap. Sometimes the shipping's free as well. I have actually just like a Paul Tillich thing, so anytime Paul Tillich books come up on eBay, I get them. I just got a brand new one that I haven't had before, and I'm really excited about reading it. And so the last book for me is very important as well, and it's a biggie. It's John Hume, The Persuader. John Hume helps bring priests to Northern Ireland to the Troubles over 30 years. It was a 30-year civil war. I love this book. He was a very normal guy in some ways, but an incredible man. And one of the reasons this book really encourages me is because I so often have people tell me that my work is impossible, getting people to disagree well, getting divided groups to come together and things like that. And every time they say that, I think of John Hume and his work, and how many times, you know, he was a Catholic and had Catholics firebomb his house. You know what I mean? Like, they told John it was impossible, and he did it. And he did it with really being inspired by the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. So anytime anyone tells me anything is impossible, old John Hume kind of says, "I don't think so, Jay. I think we can do it." So this is a guy that keeps me going against all odds. And this is an incredible book. There's another book I have about him as well that I will probably share in this 5 and 5. But those are 5 of my books. None of these are going to be in order. I'm going to grab 5 books that have changed my life and continue to shape my world every day this week. So that was Monday. And I'll be back tomorrow with 5 more books that affected my life. All right. See you then. Bye-bye.